So, with AI becoming one of the main industries that most investors are watching today, what's powering that industry? It is the AI boom right now, and which companies stand to be the go tos for the continuation of this bull run? Well, most likely it's going to be companies related to increasing the efficiency of computing power. And that could be here Applied Digital with their data centers that they build. You could also look at quantum computing. That's another industry to be watching because that might drastically reduce the amount of computing power required for AI. But we've been watching APLD and we're going to do a full breakdown of the stock. We got some levels to watch and we're going to do the three-part analysis. We will go through some of the markets as well as the second step, which will be the analysis, including the news, the chart, and the financials. And we'll end on kind of the profit margins, what we could potentially see here in the near term as well as the long term here for APLD. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here, the market. Obviously, AI is in a golden age right now. We're seeing more AI come out than ever before. In fact, I have a company I'm working on right now, Mercatus, which lets you visualize markets. And if I click on, let's say, Tesla here, it's going to take some time. Or let's see, let's click on NVIDIA here. It's going to take some time to get our future projections for the stock. Why is that? It's because of the computing power. When you have an AI and it's going and it's doing all the research, it's looking at the financials, it's looking at the news, and it's doing that research, it takes a while to get it back because it's computing power. So when we were looking to solve it, all of the companies in quarter four and into Q1, and as we continue into Q2 and Q3 throughout 2025, all of the big tech companies, Tesla, Apple, Nvidia, you have Google, Microsoft, all say they want to invest more in the data centers or the semiconductors or the computing power to be able to use AI. And that is why the market's growing. So APLD is right there. They are one of the main companies that seems to be getting some traction for building data centers. One thing to note about this company, the reason their data centers could have better capacity and potentially be seen as next gen, which is how they kind of position it, purpose built for AI. They choose very strategic locations for cold atmospheres where they place their data centers. They are looking at the environmental impact, but they're really looking at the energy sources, the renewable energy sources. And that compared to traditional is just like probably on the grid. It's probably air cooled. It's not really maybe optimized for the weather where it's placed. So Applied Digital does that. They build data centers with this in mind. So like wind turbines, solar, yes, probably on the grid, but also hydroelectric. And why is that important? Well, they got partnerships here recently, a $7 billion data center deal with CoreWeave. So that's a very large CoreWeave deal that they're going to see some increases in revenue most likely. Then you have their partnerships, Supermicrocomputer. Supermicrocomputers partner with xAI and provides the housing for the GPUs and stuff inside of the data centers for xAI. So Elon's company as well as Nvidia there, and you got Nvidia is a partner. You got Dell, Intel, Hewlett Packard. So this is an interesting thing to be watching now as they're building these data centers. I believe that one thing we're going to notice is that the amount of contracts they'll see, the amount of money they'll see. This is where we get into kind of the financials now. So the market looks good. We see a lot of companies investing in them. See a lot of other big tech looking at data centers, of course. For example, AMD, a big part of their growth recently was because they, in end of 2024, but basically quarter three, they made a huge shift to primarily data centers. And so that was part of what's driving their big revenue growth. And so we look at not the news, right? There's a lot of hype articles. We're going to go directly to the source. You see a lot of hype on this Applied Digital, so just kind of watch out. When we get into the income statements, you see the revenue. So let's look at the facts here for the financials. You see revenue increasing, revenue increasing, revenue increasing, dropped off a little bit in that last quarter, with net incomes kind of negative, sometimes even a lot of negative. But annual, you do see same thing. You see increasing revenue, revenue increasing more than that of their net income, but net income still negative. Then you got their balance sheet here, and their balance sheet looks fairly disciplined. Their liabilities are a tad bit high, which is to be expected with a infrastructure type company where they're building the buildings. But yeah, $1.7 billion in assets, 1.2 in liabilities. Their assets have been growing faster than that of their liabilities, though. So that's good indication that they have healthy growth happening on their financial side. So what does that mean? Well, we see their market caps at about 2.7 billion. They just secured that $7 billion deal with CoreWeave, so really good for them. It's kind of begs a question. I imagine they use a lot of contractors for the building. Maybe that's why their employees are so small in the number of just 150 employees. But you see the 2.7 billion in market cap. What does that mean maybe for the near term? Well, if we see that level that we've previously seen, about $34 a share back in 2021, could we see those levels again? Could we get up into these ranges? And I think it's quite possible we do. There's some levels to watch. So we saw this huge spike earlier this year. So we're getting kind of into the technicals now. And actually, before we do, if we look just one more thing in the news that we don't want to skip over, they're also strategically placing their data centers in places that are very cold, like North Dakota. So I find that to be kind of smart for them that they're doing that. I think it's important. Just something that I think everyone should know is they're choosing cold places that gives them that advantage. So I think that's pretty smart. So again, they got a 250 megawatt AI data center lease with CoreWeave. That was that right there. So again, let's get into the technicals and we'll talk about the profit plan. You have this big kind of gradual surge we've been watching here for a while, and we started covering them really back beginning or end of 2024, maybe into 2025. Definitely saw this dip down here in April 2025. And we were watching them in April, and this was when they announced their CoreWeave partnership. I think it was right around here, probably around $6-7 a share. And we saw this big surge up to about $288%, up to $15 in just a matter of a few weeks. And then outside of that move, shortly after in mid-June, they sell down and they've sold back down to this previous resistance level here at about $8 or $9 a share. They bounced. We actually traded them this past week, which was, I'd say, exciting. We ended up trading them, a very nice trade. You'd see that the chart kind of was drawn out there for a, at the time it was we entered right here. Yeah, it was about a 15% trade. We even actually sold higher than that because it just popped like crazy. We actually ended up hitting a stop here, and then we got back in. I remember that's what happened. We got in like right here, sold down, we got back in, and that was the plan. So 19% trade we had on APLD. And well, that's great, and we love to see it break out. Now the RSI MACD looking overbought. Can it continue up? I think it's kind of on this new trajectory here to get back up into this $15 range. But if we really just kind of take a step back and look at its movements, it's targeting up here, this 1364. So if it can continue that rally, again, it looks kind of overbought. We might see it pull back down, maybe retest that resistance level that it broke out of. Here, there's a pretty strong resistance you could see. And maybe it retests. But if not, yeah, we're looking at that 13% increase. The short-term volatility slightly more uncertain, as we could see that pull back down, about 5% or so down to this level. But the upside, maybe we see this level at 14% increase to getting up to previous highs, about a 30% increase. Of course, investors are eyeing these levels up here, the 100% or the 200%. Does it make sense? I think so. The AI boom is here. They're building data centers. It's probably one of the best industries you could be in right now. And they're securing the deals to put them in the position to massively increase their revenue. And with earnings coming up, I don't think we saw any earnings this week from any data center companies. It was mostly, let's see, was there any data center? Yeah, we saw TSMC this past week. They had really good earnings. That was kind of something we're watching. TSMC on Thursday pre-market. They reported that they were seeing more revenues, more profits, which is good because that just basically says, yeah, data centers and big tech are continuing to invest in more semiconductors and big tech. So that was good. And so TSMC had a nice surge. If you ever want this chart here, highly anticipated earnings, it's in StockMate. It's the second link in the description, along with our daily live trading sessions and surrounding yourself with other investors here in the community. So when we're looking at this growth, again, that's the second link in the description. When we're looking at this growth for APLD, the resistance level is at about 1330. And if it gets rejected here, then we could see maybe a sell down. But near term, we're kind of targeting this level. It's about a 14% increase for a continuation up into that previous resistance. And again, this is a hyper bull kind of outlook as it did just bull up. And you can see maybe this trend. If we're into a very hyper bull trend, then we're going to, in the near term, right? So long term, I'm just going to tell you it looks pretty good. But the short term, we do have some volatility, and this has kind of been the trend, right? So we got this level here. Maybe it even looks something like this, and I can delete that because we already did that trade. But it looks probably something kind of like this. We're watching, and we're seeing that it's trending upward, and we're looking at APLD and we're saying, okay, it's up there. RSI, MACD, very overbought at the moment. Maybe we see this sell down into these levels, about a 3 to 5% sell down as we're talking about before that continuation. But overall, what we're looking for again is to get up in these levels, that 13% increase. Maybe there's a better entry on the near term if you see that pullback. And then that could make sense. We could also see it pull back as low as not the previous resistance here, which is what a hyper bull trend looks like. So a hyper bull trend, which is what it's in here the past few days, is when the previous resistance acts as a support like this. So previous resistance, see that resistance level on July 15th acting as a support on the 18th. Then on July 17th acting as a support here on the 18th. And so that's kind of like this hyper bull trend again. Maybe we see it sell down and we see it in the near term get down to 1150 and then continue up. I think that's something to watch there. But near term, there's definitely a lot of volatility. Again, like use a plan like this. We always use a plan that is much more profit than that of our risk. When you're trading and you're looking at these trades, it's important that on the near term, that plan is there. Why do you want to have a plan? Because the near term is going to be a lot more volatility than if you're just investing for the long term. And so when you're investing for the long term, you look for these dips and you buy the dips on APLD, like for example, down to $9 from 15, and you look to add to a position. And that's great. But why do you want to have a plan on the short term? It's because we can see these swings happen and they happen fast. There was a day here where APLD sold down fast and then bounced up just as high, if not higher, in a matter of 2 days. So in the short term, it's important to manage risk, have that if you're going for a couple days, couple weeks, that if that's your plan, don't prepare. I mean, invest in long-term companies when you do those short terms. That way, if something goes wrong, you can feel confident and not doubt yourself. But that when you're in those trades, why do you want to do that? Just for the sake of managing your risk, not losing money, and maximizing your profits, looking for those big returns with minimizing the risk. And that's really what we do because of the focus on, while these companies are huge in the next 5-10 years, we continue to add for the long term. Some of those short-term positions are great if you're playing them because of the volatility that it can happen very quick, and then it could sell back down, and we could capitalize on those opportunities in the near term. So what we'll be looking for at market open on Monday, we're going to see how it reacts, sells back down to here potentially, or if we get a continuation into these $13 ranges, which would be that 10 to 15% increase. If you guys want to learn how to trade the data center stocks, AI stocks, things like this, it's the second link in the description. We're going live at market open every day, Monday through Friday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you ever want to learn technicals, fundamentals, how to trade in the stock market in these industries, then I would encourage you to simply take a look at the second link in the description, and I'll send you a free t-shirt as well and give you a personal phone call to get you on the right track. Would love to see you inside of StockMate and surround yourself with other investors. If you're ever wondering about what the types of returns are, there's some really great insights. A lot of people think I have the best insights, but that's not actually true. A lot of the great insights will come from people in this group that are, just sharing. I mean, Johnny's on it. He's always sharing. You got Lawrence is sharing. You got Lee is looking at the shorts. We got drones. You got all these upcoming stocks that are really good. CTM partnerships, the different things that we watch. And to be honest, if I had to tell you how I'm getting so much value, a big piece of what we cover on the YouTube channel is a result of some of the great investors inside of StockMate. So if you're ever looking for those extra helps, like this is just the last few weeks that I'm dropping in here, this is the place to get that extra help for the analysis from some great analysis breakdowns there. So really good stuff. One of the really cool things, we saw some nice returns recently. I think it was David that said he doubled his accounts as of recently. That was tremendous. So that was it 2 weeks ago. David said he doubled his account. Tremendous, David. Thanks so much for sharing. We've had some really great research go out that we have found that we have over 24 millionaires in the group, which is really amazing too. I don't know if you guys value being around the people that are, but it's been one of the keys for my success personally. So if you want to be around the people that are doing it, then again, second link down below, it's recurring. You get the monthly, or you get the weekly targets that I showed you earlier with all the earnings and stuff, but you also get the ability to not pay recurring subscription or something like that. If you want to get the lifetime access, it's in the second link below for all the sessions Monday through Friday, without having, like it is a recurring thing, but you don't have to pay recurring if you go through the second link in the description. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hit the like button if I earned it. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.